Hello everybody, it's Philippa Billette from Chris and Philly Functional Medicine, and I am on a mission to end body burnout in high achieving parents for good. And today I wanted to do an article, or a video, based on an article that I wrote for 9.com.au, which was published a couple of months ago on their website. They were asking for my expert opinion on a Whitetarian diet for kids, and I wanted to just flesh that out a bit for you guys today. I know many of our listeners are parents with kids, and a lot of them are fussy eaters, and I truly believe that when you put your health first, you are a better parent, and it just flows on to the children. And so if you're very kind of health conscious and you're already conscious about what you're eating, or maybe you're not even thinking about yourself at the moment, but you're just thinking about your children, this article is going to be fantastic for how to get your kids eating a more varied and healthy diet. So I do get a lot of questions from my clients about how can they get their kids eating more food. A lot of the kids are often eating a white diet, just bread and cheese and milk and sugar. And I believe that preventative medicine is the best type of medicine. So if you can start healing and nourishing your children's bodies now, they will hopefully not have the same issues that you might have experienced or are experiencing now. It is such a valuable tool that we have using food as medicine. So one of the questions that I get a lot is, why do some children limit themselves to white beige food? So I wanted to unpack that a bit so that as parents we can feed our children or know how to feed and teach our children to eat better. So a common reason why many children reach for white beige foods, so think things like bread and potato and popcorn and cupcakes and crackers and even like high sugar fruits like banana, is because many of these foods are high in carbohydrates. So carbohydrates turn into simple sugars in the body, providing a quick hit of energy for busy children. And some of the more processed white beige foods often have sugar added to them, making them an irresistible little sweet for little humans. In fact, data shows that sugar releases feel-good neurotransmitters such as dopamine. So this can also lead to addictive behaviors, causing a child to not only want white beige sugary foods, or to only want them. And I mean, as parents or in adults, we know that it happens to us too. It's why sugar is such probably the biggest addiction in our society today. So also some children may limit themselves to white beige foods, especially because they have sensory processing issues. So many white beige foods are smooth in texture, like cheese and yogurt, bread, cakes, bananas, making them easy and even non-threatening to eat. And parents may not think about this, but along the same lines, the color white can also feel non-threatening to fussy eaters. So white foods are not visually or sensory overwhelming. They're very neutral. They often taste blander. And this can make them a safer choice for children who are not very adventurous with trying new foods. So another question I get is a Whitetarian diet something parents you should be worried about? If your child is only eating white beige foods, especially if they're sticking to the same refined foods, this is a concern, unfortunately. So they are only eating refined carbohydrate foods like bread and pasta and crackers and cookies. If they're only eating these foods, this may cause them to have a nutritional deficiency in things like amino acids and fatty acids, because all they're consuming are carbohydrates. So amino acids and fatty acids literally make up every cell in the body. So if a child is not eating enough protein or good fats, this could lead to a breakdown of literally any system in the body. For example, fats make up a large proportion of the brain. So if they are nutrient deficient in fatty acids, they could start experiencing behavioral issues or hyperactivity, depression, or anxiety. If you're noticing these symptoms, it could come back to your child's limited diet. So white foods are also void of many important minerals like magnesium and iron, just to mention a couple. Magnesium is rich in green vegetables, while iron is really rich in red meats. And in terms of magnesium, it is needed for more than 300 biochemical reactions in the body. So it's really important for nerves and muscle function, heart and bone health, and the immune system. So if a child is agitated all the time, they're not sleeping well, or they're prone to catching infections, it may be due to their white diet. Iron deficiency is also really common. It can cause fatigue and low energy. So if a child is lacking in energy, they're looking a bit lethargic, they just don't have the same bounce as they usually do, it could be a nutrient deficiency coming back to their white diet. Another issue with only consuming white foods is that it could lead to a depletion of the beneficial microbiome. So the gut flora thrives on diversity and color, especially with fibrous plant foods. If a child is not feeding the good bacteria with colorful plant foods, it can lead to an overgrowth of pathogenic microbes, leading to gut issues like constipation, bloating, nausea, and also systemic symptoms related to the gut, like mood imbalances, low energy, low immunity. So these are just like some things to watch out for if you feel like your child is presenting with these symptoms and they are eating a white diet. It's something that definitely needs to be addressed. Okay, so another question. So how can parents ensure their kids are getting the correct nutrition? And this is a big one. And I know that a lot of parents overcomplicate things and they become very overwhelmed and worry about this a lot. My top tip would be to think about the variety of food your child is consuming. So when it comes to feeding your microbiome, you want to consume around 40 plus different plant foods over the course of the week. This can come in the form of vegetables and fruits and nuts and seeds and legumes and grains and herbs and spices. There's so many different things that you can choose from. Also, different varieties of a specific item are considered different. So for example, a red apple is different to, say, a green apple, and a brown rice is different from purple rice. 40, you might be thinking that 40 plus different plant foods might feel a bit impossible to achieve, maybe like for yourself at least, but if not for the child. But then you think about all the different varieties of the same food, or when you think about all the different varieties of the same food, you can actually see how you could quite easily start increasing their variety, even if they only have a limited amount of foods that your child is eating. So I'd recommend keeping a food journal over the course of a week and jot down all the different types of plant foods your child is eating. That way you know if you are hitting the 40 plus mark or not, and then you can just make little small goals, every month to just increase that by a few veggies, fruits, plant foods a week, or even a month. So growing children also need protein, and this is a food source that is not many children are consuming. If they are able to consume at least one serving of animal protein or tofu, if your family is a plant food eaters, that should be enough to ensure their amino acid status is healthy. So you don't have to load up on heaps of protein. Just make sure you're getting something daily. If in doubt and you're just really concerned about your child and the amount of food and variety that they're eating, you can use a good quality multivitamin. Of course, it's not a replacement for a healthy diet, but it can definitely just make up any potential nutrient deficiencies which might lead to symptoms down the track. So some tips on how to introduce color into kids' diets. So if your child is struggling with sensory processing issues and only wants white beige foods, then start with introducing new white beige foods into their diet. Don't jump right into here's some green things and some orange things and some red things. Just stick to the white foods first. So for example, bring in some chicken, some white fish, peaches, pineapple, honeydew, pears, coconut, cauliflower, parsnip, mushrooms, white carrots. There's all sorts of white yummy foods that have a lot of diversity in them. You could also look at swapping out more refined foods with more whole foods. So for example, like in our family, instead of buying white wheat-based pasta, I'll buy legume-based pasta. Sugary processed yogurt, you can swap out to coconut yogurt or Greek yogurt. Sometimes I get a Greek yogurt just sweetened with fruit juice or some raw honey for our family, and my kids love that. White flour can also be flipped out into something like spelt or buckwheat flour. Some kids might find that texture a bit funny, but just try it. Even if doing half white flour, half buckwheat, or doing 1/4 to 3/4 to start off with, and you slowly transition into that new food as your child gets used to it. So try hiding new foods into foods that they are already consuming regularly. This is another great tip. So for example, if your child loves milkshakes, try adding nutrient boosting ingredients into the drink. You don't necessarily have to like get rid of all the potentially refined junky foods that they're already eating to start off with, but you can just start trying to get into their diet and their favorite meals or snacks, some healthy things like collagen powder, cinnamon, cacao powder, coconut oil, different fruits, maybe even a tiny amount of baby spinach or some ground nuts and seeds into their smoothie. You can kind of hide that in there. If you kind of putting a lot of new things into their milkshakes or smoothies, you might need to sweeten them with something naturally to start off with, like medjool dates, pure maple syrup, honey. That is a way that I get my kids to eat like some nutrient punched smoothies that might even have like some veggies sort of snuck in there. I'll add a bit of maple syrup. I know that that's still sort of sugar in the end, but it's a natural form of sugar, so the body can actually like metabolize and use that a bit better than refined sugar. The same can be done with lunch, dinner, and snacks. So try adding some extra good fats into their mashed potato, or grate some different vegetables into their spaghetti bolognese. You could use different types of whole food flours when you're baking their cookies and muffins, like I mentioned before. I also like to use cooked legumes in things like brownies to add more fiber and nutrients to their treats, and the kids have no idea what is in there. They just think it's yummy. You can also try pairing new foods with foods your child is already eating. So there was actually a research study that showed that this type of pairing increased children's willingness to try new foods. So as an example, if they love yogurt, you could use this as a dip to dip new fruit into, or if they love baked potato chips, try baking these with sweet potato chips and have them dip both of them into their favorite condiment, even if that is tomato sauce, with just like little small steps trying to transition into a more healthy, varied diet. Teaching your child the importance of eating a rainbow is also so important. I know that a lot of us probably already say this to our kids: you need to eat a rainbow, eat more color, but are you actually teaching them why that's important? As an adult, you're unlikely to do something new just because you're told to do it. And kids are exactly the same. They want to know why. They are more likely to try a new food if they can understand how it can help good bugs in their gut, or make their brain happy, or help protect them from catching nasty colds. When I was doing some gut healing with one of my daughters, and her stool test showed that she was low in a lot of bugs that loved like blue and red foods, then I just connected like all those blueberries and purple cabbage and purple rice type foods to, this is going to feed your good bugs. And she was super happy to eat new things. It was really cool. Also, another tip is take them shopping and get them to choose new foods to try at home. So having their ability to make their own choices is really empowering for kids, and it will more likely lead to new eating behaviors. Also, getting them involved in the cooking process and making food fun is also really helpful. So as a mom of two, my kids, like most kids, refuse to eat their greens. I mean, even now it can be a bit of a struggle, but when I was trying to get them to eat more greens, I actually taught them about, so in the chakra philosophy, green is the color for the heart, and for heart health, and also for feeling love. So I used to say to my kids, when you eat your greens, your heart is filled with love. It was such a simple thing to say, but they actually ate their greens every time. So this imagery or metaphor might not work for your kids. If it doesn't, try thinking of some other positive associations that resonate with your child. But, give it a go, because your child might actually really pick it up and really start embodying the food that they're trying to eat. Okay, so lastly, how to deal with resistance. So this is a big one. And again, I'm a mom, my kids aren't perfect. First of all, I would just say be patient. So your child is likely not going to eat a brand new food straight away. So be consistent and continue trying. The more they are exposed and given the opportunity to eat new foods, the more likely they will be to eat them eventually. Also, don't punish your child for not eating new food. They likely have their reasons. Like what I mentioned before, they might think that it's scary, or that the texture's like weird, or they might feel threatened by it. So instead, acknowledge that they are trying. For example, if your child keeps spitting out a new food, instead of saying, "Stop spitting that out, you little brat," say, "Wow, really didn't like that. Maybe you'll like it another time when you try again. But good job for trying now." If your child is refusing to try new food, let them smell and touch and lick it first. This can help them feel more comfortable about the new food. They might not eat it the first time, but at least they are getting used to being around new food. And also another tip, approach meal times as an open experiment. Let the child decide if they want to take it or leave it. This will save you a lot of stress as a parent and will also reduce stress and anxiety in your child around meal times, which could lead to better eating patterns in the future. So I know that was like, pretty in-depth video. Hopefully you took some tips away from that you can try with your own children if you are concerned about your kids. We can absolutely thanks. So thank you so much for listening to this video. Hopefully there was some tips that you found useful that you can try with your kids. Now, if you do have a child where you're just really concerned about their eating patterns, the symptoms that are showing up, and also, potential nutritional deficiencies that might be affecting their body systems, we do actually work with children as well, not just our parents and our adults, but we do work with children all the time. And we love to support our families and our parents to create healthy, happy kids too. So important. So if you would like to, or if you need some extra support, I would be very happy to catch up with you and your child for a Connect the Dots initial consult, and we can really look deep into why your child is behaving or the way that he or she is, symptoms that are showing up in the body, and also looking around using food as medicine. So I am going to sign out now. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you next time.